Very good morning, students. Prerit, Nukul, Nandini, Kashma. I hope you can hear me 5. On a scale of 5, strength 5. All stations, Mumbai ground. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. How do you read?
Radio 5, Victor Tango November Kilo Charlie.
Radio 5, Victor Tango Papa Romeo Tango.
Students, I had given you a task with respect to rules of the air. Students who have done it and send me an update. I'm very happy with your scores. I think Nandini, you have done it. Suchita, you have done it. I'm not sure about others. Rules of the air. I want you all to tell me if you have any doubts. Make sure they are parked, they are discussed. Are we waiting for someone? I think we are waiting for Rohita. We are not sure. It's fine. I think everyone's here. Let me check. So, Suchita, you've got great scores. I'm very happy to see how you have self-done the test. You have followed. So I think you have done it from, I think you have also solved from RK Bali. I can see you mentioned that. What about the questions to be solved from Oxford based reading task? Okay, yes, got it. Very good. Good job. Way to go, proactive. So make sure the questions that you've got wrong, you have studied it, and then you discuss the doubts with me. So that is something that is the final step in this exercise. I think Suchita is not there in the class, and I was just talking to Suchita. Nandini, you're also done, right? Nandini, you didn't send me a score, or did you? Students are supposed to send me a final score also. Sorry, Nandini, what are you saying?
Sir, I said that I did not share the score. I share now.
Yeah, share. Anytime. Share the scores, also share your doubts. Suchita, Hemant, Karishma.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, students. Can you hear me?
Good morning, sir. Radio 5.
Yeah, so we're talking about the rules of the air task. Suchita was discussing yours. Way to go out of the way. You have also solved it from the other textbooks apart from Oxford. Very good. I want everybody to share these things with me as you're doing it. It's very important, students. Okay? You should all the time be busy doing something or the other, especially your tasks. Nukul, you have not done it. It's okay. Do it. Come on. What are we waiting for? But yeah, I think so. Redit, I'm not sure आपने किया है नहीं किया. Karishma, rules of the air task, one final read from the Oxford text and then solving the question. Hemant, I'm not sure what your status is with regulations or anything else. The last update, I need a new update. Nandini, very good score. I think you had mentioned the score. I remember the score. Very good score. If there's any confusion, discuss rules of the air. We should not get anything wrong. Okay. So I want everyone to message me your updates. Which exams are you appearing in June? Okay. And what all papers you have filled for? When are you going to give RT? Whatever your exams that are coming for sure. And what are you studying now? We can assume the exams to happen from anywhere 15th, 16th of June onwards or something. Like they said, second half of the month. 15th is where the second half ends, first half ends and second begins. I think approximately 18, 19, 20, 21 will be the date. So I need to know what are your goals? Do you have one or more subjects? So Nandini, I think you have regulations. I'm not sure if there's anything else. You'll give me an update saying I've applied for June and I'll be giving regs. Karishma, your status I know. So you can just mention whatever our status is and what do you think about when do you feel to give RT? RT, I think you'll be giving in August. In Delhi, I'm not sure. Nakul, I need to know quickly through text. I want these messages the first thing before we get started. Quickly message me. Redit, report your status. Which exam do you have upcoming? I think it's RT for you. Nakul, you will tell me. Quickly message me. And Hemant, I need that from you. And Suchita, of course, I think for you, because of the computer number, you cannot give the exam. I know that. But what is your status with RT? When are you hoping to give it again? All that update I quickly need so that accordingly, I can put you through more lectures of regulations quickly and get done with it now. Because your base is strong and everything will be very fast. You will be able to pick up everything very fast now. So that's what we are going to do. We're going to finish it. So I need to know so that I'm sure where we are individually. If you don't have any other exams apart from your exam, then just mention no other exams. Okay. Or mention all the exams. It'll be done. Good. We will get started with a topic today that is very interesting and very easy. But if we have not studied it, then of course we find it confusing. We are going to talk about airspaces. We're going to talk about what is an airspace and how are they quantified, what are the characteristics. And it's not lengthy with terms to study, but it requires a lot of things for you to remember in a very specific way. So we'll get started with that in a couple of minutes. Any questions before we get started? Okay, good updates, everyone. Okay. What do we know about airspaces? We know about airspace that it is controlled. There is something called a controlled flight. We know there are some things called as air traffic service routes. Learning rules of the air, we have come through a lot of important terms. Those terms that start with or end with something that is regulatory. Terms that talk about what to do with respect to air traffic controllers. A lot of keywords exist, but there are specific keywords that come under the space, the headspace of airspaces. Okay. The first thing they need to understand that how does it all start with? So there are a couple of variations with respect to what part of the environment or the aerodrome or the control zone, what part is designed to be used as an airspace, and then how is it confined, or how is it measured or differentiated or studied. Basically, anything and everything that we're going to talk about visually through our eyes, own eyes, it's all invisible. We cannot see it, but it exists. That's when it becomes challenging for someone who's starting to study airspaces, because we don't know what's happening. Everything just looks like thin air. So what is the difference? So the difference, the first thing that starts with when you talk about airspace, so the first thing that airspace starts with is FIR. Okay. So the first quantification or the first segregation of the airspace, airspace, what do we mean? We are talking about the space in air that we will occupy when we are flying. That is airspace. It is nothing to do with ground. Now let's talk about other modes of transport. Let's talk about railways. Railways, can a train be allowed to move on a highway? Certainly it cannot. It's not designed. It's not safe. Even if it has the capacity to, run on the roads, it is not safe. The roads are not designed for an airplane, not for a train. Similarly, talk about cars. Can my cars that are only designed for roads, can they travel on sea? They cannot travel on sea. Not on the tires, of course. They're not designed. It's not safe. Okay. What about ships? Can I fly my ships? Of course, I cannot fly my ships. I can only use my ships on water. So we understand that every mode of transport will have their own mode of transportation or space of the earth, which they use to enable their transportation. So we need railways and roads. We need landmass. We need landmass for factories. We need landmass for vegetation. We need landmass for settlement. So the landmass is specifically divided. Some part of my landmass in the city will be for road, something for playground, something for residence, something for living, so and so. Airspace is not shared by anyone. Nobody does anything in the airspace apart from flying. People don't build houses. People don't build vegetation. There's nothing else in the airspace. So the entire airspace is available for controlled flights. So all that you can see above the land can be considered as an airspace. In that, in how much area will I give air traffic service, and in how much area will I not get air traffic service? That is for us to determine the difference between airspace. For you, the whole point, the logic behind learning all the complex details about airspaces is this: you to know where you are allowed to fly or where you should fly, where you should not. Wherever there are no airspaces defined for you, you should not fly there. You will not get air traffic control service. Wherever there are airspaces, you should fly there. You will get air traffic services. Great. So that is simple. Now, when you are flying, you're not just flying through one rule. You're flying through VFR. You're flying through IFR. Combination of VFR, IFR, IFR, VFR. You might require VFR-based separation and guidance. You might require IFR-based separation and guidance. You might just require advisory guidance. You might require collision avoidance guidance, traffic management, clearances, compliances, maybe just information, communication. Now you see, in that airspace, I have segregations. Now, because I have a RVSM table or VSM table for VFR differently, IFR differently, easterly, westerly differently. Similarly, I have different airspaces within this one airspace. Now we know airspace classification is done through letters: Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, Echo, Foxtrot, Golf. It goes up to Golf. Airspace A will mean some type of airplanes can fly and they will get some type of assistance. Airspace B will mean some type of airspace, some type of rules, some type of assistance for a particular type of people. So every different airspace will be designed for a unique characteristics You need to check as per your flight rules and your flight plan and everything else involved, IFR, VFR, what not. You have to decide which is the airspace for you to fly. And that is the whole concept now that you need to study and give answers to, as in which airspace is applicable for which airspace has what are the different names, what are the privileges, what are the shortcomings. So you might be thinking right now, okay, तो VFR के लिए कुछ अलग होगा? Probably yes. IFR के लिए कुछ अलग होगा? Probably yes. What I mean to say is you might be thinking right now that it is different for VFR, it is different for IFR. Yes. Different for VFR, different for IFR, and so many other variations. Now, there are certain airspaces where you don't get clearances, you only get information. And then there are certain airspaces where you get clearances as well as information. Certain airspaces where they will not cater to VFR, only cater to IFR. Certain airspaces where they'll only cater to VFR and subjectively might cater to IFR. So that's all that we're going to see. Okay. The first thing starts with airspace. The first thing that starts airspace is FIR. What is FIR, students? A very important term. Flight Information Region. If you say FIRs, it becomes Flight Information Regions. In any state, any country is what they mean. It's what I will mean is what you will mean whenever you see the word state. In every country or every member state of ICAO, all the airspace will be restricted or contained within one or more FIRs. So your FIRs are like the larger airspaces within which smaller airspaces are confined. Now, when I talk about FIRs, remember you learned something about FIR in RT, and that is it is based on HF communications. And the people that are taking care of FIRs are called as FICs, Flight Information Centers. If I am approved by the government to take care of this airspace as an advisor, as an air traffic controller, or any other person, but if I am in charge of an FIR, then I would be heading an office called FIC. But this is over and above our basic communication requirement. Our basic communication requirement is done on VHF. So if I have to think about my country, okay, my state, okay, if this is a rough diagram that I have, then in my state, my airspaces will be divided first within FIRs, okay, like this. So I'll have different FIRs, Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, Kolkata, Guwahati, like this. Now I will have FICs giving me clearances in my FIRs. Within my FIRs, I have the most important mode of communication, and through communication only will I be getting clearances or information or advice that I need to carry out a safe flight. The problem is not in using any other airspace for the safety of the aircraft. Let's consider that all your weather updates are, what do we say? Your weather is fine everywhere. If your weather is fine, then can you just fly in any airspace? No, you cannot. Why? Because you will not have navigation facilities. You will not have communication facilities. You will not have advisory facilities. You will not get clearances. You will not get flight information. FIR, FIC is a generic term that you need to get used to right now. And you will talk about this term taking I need flight information service. When I say flight information service, it becomes FIS. Any information that you need or any assistance that you need comes under flight information service. Now, if somebody tells you what is an FIR, then write down the definition of FIR. Okay. FIR is a basic unit of airspace. Here, the unit doesn't mean knots, miles per hour, nautical miles per hour. Here, unit means a department. FIR is a basic unit of airspace. Okay. In which basic form of air traffic service, ATS air traffic service is available. Now, this is the keyword, air traffic service. Without air traffic service, you cannot really fly IFR. ATS is a air traffic service is a FIS. Air traffic service is a flight information service. The problem occurs when we are talking about the word information and our understanding about the word information. We think information just means exchange of information. Flight information service is a generic term, okay, where service is provided to all the flights flying in an airspace, regulated airspace, or service will be provided. So the word information should not confuse you. It's a very important word. It should not mean like it's just basic information, might not be as important as clearances. All airspaces within a state are confined in one or more FIRs. Now, students, FIRs will not only have landmass, FIR can also have the connected water bodies. In many countries in many continents, we could say, many countries that are connected with each other, like 2 or 3 sides, like India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Nepal, we are all connected with borders. In these places, the FIR boundaries would be in the shape of the geographical boundaries only. Otherwise, in countries where that provision is not helpful, then they have rounded off squares for FIRs, like in European nations, small countries. So they overlap. India is one such country which is huge in landmass. So the FIR boundaries with external countries outside are taking the shape of geographic boundaries. This is one basic question that could come anywhere. Now, FIR also enables alerting service. There are services there where you'll just be alerted about information. Okay. Then there are services that will help you get clearances, whether you can change your flight level, change your route, change your speed, change your flight plan, whatever clearances you need. Maybe basic clearances as to changing over from one control to next control, changing over from one FIR to another FIR, position reports, or maybe just obtaining information from ATC about certain aspect of your flight path. Now, FIRs will have their names. Okay. India has Mumbai FIR, and it has a code in the location designators. This is the code for Indian FIRs. Then we have Delhi FIR, VIDP. So VIDP is for Delhi Airport, but this indicates FIR. This indicates FIR. So there is a way to represent your location designators or indicators with the perspective of talking about FIR. So we say an FIR in India will be named as with respect to the first 2 letters, the AFSRA and the letter given to that particular FIR. Chennai FIR, VOMM. VOMM is for Chennai. So these letters are for airports, not for FIR. Remember that. Otherwise, you will be wrong. You will be thinking that this code is for Mumbai, Delhi, or Chennai FIR. No. The ones that I'm circling, the first two letters will indicate the proper FIR for me. Generally, when we are explaining location indicators or location designators, the 4-letter codes, we talk about the second letter to indicate FIR or the city, not the city, but the state or the country. But when we describe FIR, we can also say the first two letters will describe the particular FIR. Both ways it goes. So we need to know that in a different perspective. And then Kolkata, FIR will be VECC. So VE. And Guwahati is a sub FIR in India. Partial airspace of Guwahati, the ground to a certain point is taken care by Kolkata. Above a certain altitude, it's taken care by Guwahati FIC. So Guwahati FIR will be VE and Guwahati, right? GT. So this is for Guwahati. So these are the first ones that I'm circling in green and red are your FIR indicators for India. We could say that. But the names are like this: Mumbai FIR, Delhi FIR, Chennai, Kolkata FIR. There'll be London FIR. Now these names generally give me FIR along with, okay, note on this point, along with its associated ACC. When I say Mumbai FIR, it means I am into Mumbai FIR, and along with Mumbai FIR, I have an ACC, which is nothing but Mumbai ACC. So now you have another connect where whatever FIR you have, if the FIR is named with that particular place, like Mumbai, Delhi, Chennai, Kolkata, Guwahati, then that FIR will be accompanied by its own ACC. Mumbai ACC, Delhi ACC, Kolkata ACC, Guwahati ACC, and Chennai ACC. What is this ACC? Now, this ACC is that basic, much more required on VHF that I needed was, what I needed was ACC. So when I'm defining an FIR along with the definition of FIR with respect to the range and the boundary, I am also mentioning the ACC that is available. And this information is very important for us to know that, okay, if there is an FIR, it means there will be HF communication facilities here. And along with that, there will also be, what do we say? There will also be a ACC, and ACC is there for us on VHF. Now think about it like this. If FIR is the main authority on HF, then ACC is the main authority on VHF. As much as FIR is important, that much even VFR is important. Or I would say as much as FIR is important, that much VHF based ACC is also very important. There are 2 or 3 or multiple ways to understand frequencies used, channels used. When you use frequencies, you know HF long distance, VHF short distance. So now you know FIRs will be there. You would be excited to know, students, that all countries are connected by FIR boundaries. Just like in India, we have state boundaries for all states. All FIR boundaries are connected to each other. Like, of course, Indian FIR will not be connected to London FIR, but then Indian, let's say Delhi FIR will be connected to Karachi FIR probably somewhere in Kabul or some Afghanistan based. Slowly, you'll go to Europe, and that FIR boundary in Europe will be connecting to an FIR boundary in London. And then London FIR boundary will be connected to some other, and the whole world will be then connected through FIRs like that. So you'll be any one point in time, you'll be in one particular FIR if you're in a controlled airspace. You will be surprised to see the whole world is connected in FIRs. There is no space vacant left when it comes to FIR. If there is, it will be mentioned. But there is no such case. So far, are you getting what's happening? The airspace is defined into VFR. Krishna, why am I saying VFR? The airspace is defined into FIR. FIR will be named. It will have ACCs, and the name of the FIR will also denote the complementary ACC that we get. The full form for ACC is, can anyone give me the full form for ACC? 5 seconds.
Area Control Center.
ACC stands for Area Control Center. Very good. I hope everyone can hear me well. Karishma, Suchita, Hemant, Nandini, Nukul, Prerit. Following, simple.
Affirm, sir.
Affirm, sir.
Affirm, sir.
Any questions? Write down one point. When any country or state strictly enforce, when a country or state strictly enforce its sovereignty this is nothing but a country saying that this is the part of me, my country, you are not allowed. The boundaries, continue. The boundaries of that particular country or state's FIR, the boundaries of the particular country or state's FIR will usually coincide with the national body, with the national borders of the state. The boundaries of the countries or the states' FIRs will coincide with the national borders of the state. A term that could come as a MCQ and you could still get it wrong because of the word sovereign or something like that. Now further my ACC, let's talk about ACC. ACC, just give me a second. So now this ACC is divided into, generally this division is not directly mentioned, but this is how your BHF based area control centers or your airspaces, main airspaces that you'll be dealing with day-to-day lives are divided. Just as a state is being divided into FIRs, a state is also divided into control areas and control zones. CTA is control area and CTR is control zone. A very important nomenclature, students. Very important nomenclature. CTR, CTA are the most important of nomenclatures. CTA control area, CTR control zone. Now this control zone that you have, I'm giving you a shortcut. It is generally with your tower. Okay. While this control area is a little tricky for us to understand, but really is it tricky? No, it's not really tricky. So my airspace will be divided FIR plus ACC plus I can say CTA, CTR, and in between I also have restricted area, danger area, and prohibited area. So they also come under my airspaces. So I need to avoid or I need to control my flight in those areas. Okay. PTAs are connected to other CTAs to form a corridor. The word corridor is also important. What is corridor? Corridors is a fixed pathway to something, a channel that enables you to reach someplace. It could be physical with respect to transportation, such as the use of the term here, or it could be with respect to some other agreements also, like do we have a mutual agreement to discuss and come out onto something. So for us, this corridor here is very important. CTRs are connected to other CTRs to form corridors. Okay. And these corridors are known as so if you're thinking how to define this particular term called airway, something that is the most important thing for you to fly, keeping in mind that you don't go off track, is you stay on the airway. How do you think this airway is defined? This airway can be defined through a required track, a magnetic direction, or a true direction. Fine. But then how do you establish this airway? This airway is nothing but a corridor between CTAs, control areas linking each other. So now you know that you fly from CTA to CTA to CTA to CTA, and CTA is not just restricted, but I have an ACC. Within ACC, I have CTA and CTR, and then I have ACC, and then I have FIR. So those are the 4 overlaps that we have. So when I talk about CTR or control zone, this control zone should remind me of my aerodrome traffic zone. It is the immediate space around the airport where the traffic would be coming with respect to joining the circuit, arrival, departure, or ground movement. If you remember the definition of traffic zone. If no, revise it. So control zones are specific with respect to aerodrome traffic zone. It means tower. If you have someone called ground also, then ground will be just there to help tower do their duties in an efficient way by taking care of the surface movement control. So in general, we only have FIRs and ACCs, and then we have CTR and CTAs, restricted area, prohibited area, danger area. Between connected CTAs, we get airways, which are nothing but corridors linking CTAs to CTAs. And what is CTR right now? CTR is the air traffic zone in the immediate vicinity of the aerodrome, something synonym with air traffic zone. People engage with that aerodrome in real time. That particular airspace will be CTZ, CTR. So CTAs can exist in the form of corridors linking other CTAs, and they are known as airways. And the airspace, write this down, okay? ATZ, aerodrome traffic zone. It is the airspace in the vicinity of an aerodrome. Simple. You already know this. So you might be thinking, sir, airspace ATZ, ATZ and CTR, are they the same? I would say they are similar in nature, but they have unique characteristics, each to their own. So we'll see what those unique characteristics are. Aerodrome traffic zone is the airspace in vicinity of an aerodrome. So I know as a student, you might be thinking, sir, when I do airspaces, I have to talk about classes of airspaces. But the class comes in the end. What comes before is the understanding of what these variety of things mean. Okay. So let's talk about CTA, CTR in detail and discuss a few key points. Are we ready? Do you have any questions? Are you wondering something about the airspace and you would like to ask? Think.
So could you repeat aerodrome traffic zone? I didn't understand.
नुकुल, हमने पढ़ा है एरोड्रोम ट्रैफिक जोन. क्या नहीं समझ आ रहा है बताओ.
सर वो एक्चुअली एग्जिस्ट करता कहाँ है?
कहाँ करता है? क्या बोल रहे हैं हम लोग क्या बोल रहे हैं? कहाँ करता है?
In vicinity of an aerodrome.
तो फिर कंफ्यूजन क्या?
सर अभी तक यही पता था कि कंट्रोल जोन होता है अराउंड दी.
कंट्रोल जोन को रखो साइड में, उसको मत छीनो अपने आप से. एटीजी आपने पढ़ा है, आपने रूल्स ऑफ द एयर में भी पढ़ा है, डेफिनेशन में भी पढ़ा है. ट्राई टू रिकॉल इट. क्या हो सकता है? सेंटेंस कितना सिंपल है. हमने अच्छे से डिसाइड किया था व्हाट इज द मीनिंग ऑफ ट्रैफिक इन द विसिनिटी ऑफ एरोड्रोम. उसका मीनिंग क्या है? यू हैव टू गो बैक एंड चेक इट. एटीजी और सीटीआर अलग चीजें हैं, दोनों एग्जिस्ट करती हैं. तो कंफ्यूजन क्या है? मैं बोल रहा हूं दोनों सिमिलर भी हैं. तो कंफ्यूजन क्या है यहाँ पे? फिर एग्जैक्ट पॉइंट पे आओ फटाफट. कंफ्यूजन क्या है? थिंक थिंक थिंक. टॉक टू मी नुकुल. व्हाट्स द कंफ्यूजन? तो कहां से स्टार्ट हो रहा है? कहां से स्टार्ट होगा? एरोड्रोम.
Sir, at the aerodromes.
On the aerodrome and in the vicinity of aerodrome, wherever you have an aircraft that is going to be a part of the aerodrome traffic.
Okay, sir.
कहाँ है वो? मेरे को चाहिए students. I want you all to be super alert. Now Nukul is at least trying to come up with a question. Think. Nukul, अच्छे से समझाओ मुझे. What do you think is a traffic zone?
So could we say that the movement and maneuver areas are the part of the aerodrome traffic zone?
No. Why you are mixing two things? Now movement area and everything will definitely be a part of the aerodrome traffic zone. और कहाँ जाएंगे वो सब लोग? Yeah, you can say that. I don't mind. कुछ अलग नहीं है, सब एक ही चीज है. Students, it was one of the most important definitions that we have studied. If not, park it, mark it, and quickly do it today. Because वो नया चीज था आप लोगों के लिए. RT में वो सब नहीं सीखा आपने. I have not studied that in RT. That's why I'm saying it's very important. So yeah, you are right. Aerodrome traffic zone, anything to do with aerodrome, departure aircraft, arriving aircraft, not en route aircrafts. Not aircraft that are going to fly by that airspace. अच्छे से तो पढ़ा है हमने. That is aerodrome traffic.
Okay. Yes,
Yeah. What's the confusion? डिस्कस सर, अभी भी है कंफ्यूजन, पूरा खत्म कर लेना है स्टूडेंट्स. बट आई वांट योर कॉन्फिडेंस हियर. व्हाट कुड बी द डिफरेंस अदरवाइज? Good, Nukul, very good. Tell me what's the confusion.
Actually, I was confused that the aerodrome traffic zone is a specific area. So we didn't see in uh, while studying RTR, we only saw the control zone and control area. So that's why
अरे
I'm
नुकुल, वो
confused.
तो ठीक है नुकुल, वो तो ठीक है, बट पिछले क्लास में ATZ करा था ना, उसका बेसिस क्या है इंफॉर्मेशन का? रिकलेक्शन का है? आपको आरटी रिकलेक्ट हो रहा है, आपने आरटी में ज्यादा पढ़ा है, चलो सीटीआर हो रहा है, बट ATZ का रिकलेक्शन कहाँ है? बताओ मुझे फटाफट. Students who have not studied ATZ or don't remember rules of the air-based ATZ, it means why you are not studying वाली बात हो जाती है. But Nukul, there is no confusion. These are two different terms. CTR मैंने अब तक बताया भी नहीं आपको क्या है via definition. But you cannot say ATZ is very simple. Fit in your mind is the aerodrome traffic zone. What is aerodrome traffic zone? The definition is right there. Your booklets are with you. Section 9 is completely with you. जिसमें definitions है. Oxford is there. That is completely with you. So why the confusion is what I'm not understanding. But you have to make sure students are asking questions. Otherwise कुछ याद ही नहीं रहेगा. नुकुल, एरोड्रोम ट्रैफिक जोन स्टार्ट कहाँ से होता है एंड कहाँ से? इट इज विद इन द स्टूडेंट. देयर इज अ डेफिनेशन यार, कम ऑन. व्हाट इज द डेफिनेशन? विल कम अप विद द डेफिनेशन. वो डेफिनेशन में सब कुछ दिया है. क्या होता है एरोड्रोम ट्रैफिक जोन? कम ऑन, गिव मी द डेफिनेशन क्विकली. नंदिनी, सुचिता, प्रेरित, करिश्मा, एनीबॉडी?
So it is an
Sir,
airspace of defined dimensions established around an aerodrome for the protection of aerodrome traffic.
Defined dimensions, Nukul, it is defined dimension. It is fixed. It is calculated. ठीक है. अब एरोड्रोम ट्रैफिक क्या होती है उसका डेफिनेशन निकालो फटाफट. फॉर एरोड्रोम ट्रैफिक, आई टॉट यू हाउ टू मेक श्योर ऑफ दीज थिंग्स. कम ऑन क्विक. एरोड्रोम ट्रैफिक कौन बताएगा? Quick. I want answer. Aerodrome traffic. Students, have shared everything with you. Why are you taking so long? PDF पे एरोड्रोम ट्रैफिक भी सर्च कर लोगे ना, आपको डेफिनेशन मिल जाएगा. यस नंदिनी?
All the traffic on the maneuvering area of an aerodrome and all flying in the vicinity of aerodrome.
I can read you three, not very clear. All the traffic on the maneuvering area was mentioned, okay?
And the aircraft flying in the vicinity of the aircraft.
And the aircrafts flying in the vicinity of what?
Aerodrome, sorry.
Aerodrome. What is aircraft flying in the vicinity of aerodrome, students? नुकुल, सब समझ आ रहा है? आपको आंसर मिल रहा है अपने सवाल का?
Yes, sir.
समझ आ रहा है कि नहीं आ
Yes,
रहा?
sir. नहीं sir, आ रहा है.
हाँ सर आ रहा है, नहीं सर नहीं आ रहा है. दो ही जवाब हो सकते हैं. नहीं सर, हाँ आ रहा है मतलब नहीं समझता मुझे.
हाँ सर आ रहा है.
वेरी गुड. गुड जॉब सुचिता. नंदिनी क्या बोल रहे हो? प्रेरित आप बताओ.
सर वो मीनिंग बता रहा था उसका. सर इट
बताओ.
मींस दैट एवरी एयरक्राफ्ट एंटरिंग और लीविंग द ATS सर्किट.
कहाँ से आ रहा हो मीनिंग?
सर इन द डेफिनेशन the below at the below of that definition one note is given in which it is mentioned.
सब कुछ है ना अपने पास नुकुल? मिल
Yes,
रहा
sir.
है? मेरे को यही
Yes,
चाहिए,
sir.
मेरे को यही चाहिए. Doubt arise is fine. You asking me is fine. But then when you have a doubt for something that we have covered, I want a research done on that quickly. Quick. Confusion, I want a self-research there. Exactly. What you all three have done collectively after me saying so much and putting some pressure, it should come directly, students. Otherwise, all the resources and all the strategy that I'm giving you is useless. that you keep everything in hand and study. You are getting so much of comfort. Remember that, okay? Because we have studied this. The problem is that. So if we have studied this, then why are we still confused? Let's go revise and get it done with. No problem. A very good question. CTR, ATZ, anybody can get confused. So good job collectively, everyone. But make sure you also learn the other thing, because I'll not be always there to clear your doubts, right? So how will you resolve the doubt in an exam question paper? There too you cannot go through books also. So what you'll be able to go through is your mental memory of your notes, right? So you need to have that structure ready in your mind, students. But overall, good job. We will see. Now ATZ you keep aside now. We know there is a specific term of defined dimensions, but when it comes to air traffic control or when it comes to control area, we will not refer to ATZ. Okay, we will not refer to it because it is not there as a part of air traffic control. It just exists as a dimension or specification of an airspace where we need to know, okay, certain things are not allowed in the aerodrome traffic zone. So it would vary from airport to airport as to what's the physical radius or diameter of that particular aerodrome traffic zone in that particular area. It will never be fixed, but regulatory authorities will always have a fixed thing for us to maintain, right? So it's like that. Let's talk about CTR and CTA. Simple. Before I start with CTR and CTA, I have a term that I want to discuss with you. CAS, Controlled Air Space. All right. Air traffic control, ATC, air traffic control is only provided inside a controlled airspace. Okay. Max limit for your controlled airspace generally is flight level 660. Air traffic control only provided in controlled airspace. Remember, the first thing I was mentioning was airspace should be controlled airspace for a controlled flight. When I say controlled flight, it means safe flight. Chances of success are the highest. Success as in taking off and landing safely. Maximum limit for controlled airspace generally is this. Now know that in India, the maximum commercial flight level or flight level for commercial airlines is flight level 460. But there are general aviation aircrafts, charter planes, they fly at a higher altitude also. So what is that altitude highest that they could fly or get control services is flight level 660, 66,000 feet. ATC only provided in controlled airspace. If there is no controlled airspace, you won't get ATC. Simple, right? Now I'll say, next point, controlled airspace comprises of, as you might have guessed, CTR and CTA. Students, do not think there is just one way of segregation. If you think FIR, ACC, CTA, and CTR, now that is for air traffic control. Air traffic control, clearances. There are more things than just clearances for which airspaces also exist. Remember, don't think ke kya ho raha hai, ye CAS kahan se aa gaya. It's another generic term. You can say, sir, will CAS have FIR? Of course. But FIR is not just simply designed for air traffic control. CTA and CTR are designed for air traffic control. When I'm on my route, I can also talk to HF on FIC, FIR. But main air traffic control is given to me CTA, CTR. So what is that main function? Okay. CAS comprises of CTR and CTA. Okay. And you will write primary function of CTRs or CTAs is to give air traffic control to IFR traffic. Now, this is a huge difference. This is why we can't just guess correct answers in regulations. Because if I don't read this point specifically, then I'll think CTR, CTA to BFR ko bhi dega, right? But there is a variation. This is why you have class A, class B, class C, class D, and so on. CTR, CTAs are mainly designed with their primary function to give air traffic control, ATC, give air traffic control to IFR traffic. IFR traffic, keyword, 2 points, 2 marks collected there. Okay. Now let me give you a few key points about CTA. Just write down, I'm going to dictate it. We'll make it that faster. While you are reading it, understand it. Stop me if you have doubts. Otherwise, just write the key points about CTR and CTA. If I'm fast, let me know. I'll slow down. Wherever you're confused, ask. Don't be hesitant in asking doubts, thinking Arisa is going to take our case. I will not take your case. I'm just going to jumpstart that thing in your mind that will help you figure things out quickly by yourself in the long run. I can always give you a direct answer for some questions, which I will. Okay. So don't worry in asking and don't feel bad, anyone. Write down. Let's first write down CTA. First point about CTA. Write down. Of course, CTA is an airspace. Okay. So first, because it's a first definition, write down. CTA is an airspace. Afterwards, we know CTR, CTA, both will be airspaces. CTA is an airspace where controlled flights which are en route. Nukul, focus here. Okay. यहाँ पे चीजें एक एक चीज पे फोकस करो, आपको सब अपने आप और ज्यादा क्लियर हो जाएगा. Everybody focus on everything one by one and everything will become much more clearer for you all in this part. CTA is an airspace in which air traffic control is provided to traffic that is en route, or you would say air traffic control is provided to controlled flights, the keywords. Controlled flights which are en route. What do you mean by en route? You will write in bracket, not in departure or approach phases of flight. Not in departure or approach phases of flight. So students, now you are learning regulations. You are not learning RT. You are not learning to clear RT calls or the vivas. Whatever you learn in RT with respect to those realistic examples on hypothetical charts is for you to be able to give answers based upon those charts. And those charts have a limitation on which we have to act upon. Although I teach you with respect to all the realistic application that you could have, so everything is real, but there are much more things. If you remember, initially when you do charts, I say real charts are much more complicated than this by the looks of it. So why are they complicated? Because the properties are varying in nature with respect to the airspace, definition, divisions. So whatever you have learned in RT, if it resembles here, use it. But not everything you learn in RT that we have studied for RT will be overpowering what we learn here. What we learn here will be overpowering that. Thinking with respect to, okay, what we're learning should overpower that we have learned in the past. If you have confusions, you ask. Don't take that. A few points, of course, are valid, but not all points. So if that is one reason why you can get confused, now you'll not get confused because, okay, let's accept these. What is flights that are controlled, flights that are en route, flights that are not in departure or approach phases of flight, not even approach. Second point, service provided in CTA, write the whole thing. Service provided in CTA is area control. What is area control? You can put an asterisk, keep it parked, and we will give it a read later on once airspaces are over. But the key word for you to remember here is that in CTA service provided is area control. Very important. Otherwise, you will see ACC. CTA comes under ACC only. So CTA is giving me area control. Okay. And in our RT, you were thinking CTA, we were doing CTA as approach. Good. We need that in that case to be done. But what we do after CTA, what do we call? We call control. Now here we see CTA also gives you area control. So it just overlaps each other. Write down third point quickly about CTA. This I'll just dictate. CTAs are established in vicinity of major aerodromes and at the confluence or intersection of airways. CTAs are established in vicinity of major aerodromes and at the intersection or confluence of airway. Wherever you'll see a lot of airspaces having a confluence, like intersecting or meeting each other, their CTA will be, created, provision of CTA will be given, or around major aerodromes, the CTA will always be there. That's why you see CTA, even in your mock charts, it's not everywhere, but there's a CTR, and then just you have ACC. You don't have CTA. It means that aerodrome is not major aerodrome. And over a major aerodrome, only we have confluence of airways. So all important terms right there, which otherwise will be very tricky for us to answer. Fourth point. Linking corridors of airspace, that is airways, are also CTAs. Are you understanding, students? Yeah, airspaces or airways also come under CTA when they're connecting each other. Of course, airways are connecting each other. Next point you'll write, CTA is defined to exist from above ground level, AGL, above ground level to an altitude or flight level. AGL, CTA will also start from AGL. So please don't get confused with your RT charts. They are hypothetical charts, realistic, but in its own way. So now just focus here and learn this. Wherever you need to connect it with RT, I'll tell you you connect it with RT. Otherwise, you don't let your mind connect it with RT. Okay, students? Please. मेरे एक जगह दिखा वो confusion है, so I'm just specifying again and again, so you remember to clear that confusion. CTA is defined to exist from above ground level to an altitude or flight level. You can see these are high priority fill in the blanks that you'll get in the examination. A very important point, wherever CTA limit is ending in flight level, it will be a VFR flight level. Again, a very important point. If you are well versed with the tables of VFR flight levels and IFR flight levels, and if they tell you that this is where my CTA is ending as the upper limit, then you have to just find out which one is matching with your VFR flight levels on the particular heading, easterly or westerly. And that would become a correct answer. The dots would be connected from there. Mention would be a CTA over there. A very important point, wherever CTA limit is ending in FL, it will be a VFR flight level. Over here, when I've said defined to exist from above ground level, here you add this point, otherwise you'll be confused. Add this in the point number 5. CTA is defined to exist from a level above ground level, a fixed point above ground level, not from the ground level. CTR will be from the ground level because it takes the maneuvering area also. Now, this statement should help you understand that indeed CTA doesn't start exactly from the ground. The reason is that as per the rules, write down this point, the lowest level of CTA must be 700 feet above ground level. That is 200 meters. So now they're saying that your CTA will start from a level above ground level, and that level should be minimum 700 feet. So from ground level till 700 feet, you cannot have CTA. If you need CTA, it should start from at least 700 feet as the starting point up to a certain altitude or flight level. If it is ending at a flight level, then that flight level, whatever it is, will be a VFR flight level. This unique point can confuse you all if you don't remember this. Now remember students, the CTA airspace can be subdivided in itself. If this much is my CTA, it can be subdivided. How can the subdivision be? The subdivision be that the upper portion of the CTA can be for traffic that is in transit, while the lower levels will be for the aircrafts that are maneuvering in the vicinity of the aerodrome for the sake of leaving it or moving close in the proximity of the aerodrome. Simple. Higher aircrafts, the CTA will be subdivided for them to go fly by. Lower aircrafts within the CTA will be, the airspace will be reserved for planes flying in the vicinity or doing things with respect to the aerodrome that the lower level flights would require. What happens this way? Segregation of duties, segregation of pre-assigned flight levels helps us in better traffic management, nothing else. It's like when you're cooking, you like things to be, segregated in one place. That makes your cooking easy. Everything in the world is decided like that. The design of our house is also like that. In our house also, a part of our house is for us to enter and exit. Part of us is for us to eat and drink and refresh. Part of it is just for us to sit and study, or maybe sit and maybe go to bed. Similarly, one airspace is subdivided. These points should be there as mark the correct statement answers. So you need to know these points. Understand, even if you don't write this point, it's fine. There is a certain term called maneuvering airspace also. Don't get confused thinking, what is maneuvering airspace? The lowest part, if I have to divide my CTA in 3 parts, then the lowest part, okay, will be used for my aircrafts, for instrument approaches, or to keep good separation for their instrument departures. So I have 3 level of CTA divisions. One will be go from above, you don't have to come down in transit clearances. Second would be for airplane moving in the vicinity of the aerodrome to maybe depart after doing the ATC clearance, or maybe arrive after taking some clearances to land, prepare for arrival. And the third would be immediately what is happening to aircrafts that are taking off or aircrafts that are landing. So in itself, if the whole airspace is for 15,000 feet, 20,000 feet, then maybe 5 to 7,000 feet of worth of altitude in the highest level would be aircrafts to transit, then the aircrafts in the maneuvering airspace, and then the aircrafts where they are planning to land, make instrument approaches or take off. So 8th point would be subdivisions. Upper, lower, lowest. Upper, traffic in transit. Traffic in maneuvering airspace. Maneuvering airspace is just a keyword for you to know that, okay, real-time movement in close proximity. And lower, arrive, depart, in simple words. Let's quickly talk about CTR. Before I start CTR, just take a quick read at all points of CTA and tell me if you're having any confusion. Quick. No questions? Okay. Close your books. Quick question, rapid fire. The lowest level of a CTA should be dash above dash. Should be 200 meters above mean sea level. Should be 200 feet above ground level. Should be 700 feet above ground level. Should be 700 feet above mean sea level. A, B, C, D. What's the correct answer? Nandini, Suchita, very good. Prerit, very good. Simple, right? 700 feet above ground level, option C. Karishma, Hemant, Nukul, you're not giving answers.
Sir, you're not getting my Dropbox.
Got it. Yours was the first one. I got it. Yeah. Good. Good job, everyone. Nukul, Hemant, Karishma, good job. Correct answers. Sure. Let's talk about CTR. Nukul and everyone else, focus. And if you're confused, feel free to ask, okay? Yes, Suchita, what's on your mind?
So the primary function of CTR and CCAs is to give air traffic control to IFR traffic. So why does the highest limit end at VFR flight level? It should be IFR, right?
See, students, this is exactly what I was telling Nukul also. That एक सेंटेंस को इतना सीरियसली मत लो कि दूसरे सेंटेंस को आप गलत ठहरा रहे हो directly. First thing in regulations, what I'm saying, it is for everyone. It is for me also. Otherwise, we will never understand regulations in the first place when we are reading it. In future, you will be reading it on your own only. Nobody is gonna you will be doing a lot of studies as you go ahead. CTR, CTA service is for IFR. I told you all initially also IFR. here you need to try to understand a little bit of difference with respect to what is happening with respect to the control service provided to IFR. Just because they mentioned that the highest level should be a VFR level, it doesn't mean that, okay, ये VFR level क्यों दिया? Here you can understand the last level should be VFR in the case that, okay, the borderline is not an IFR level. So we cannot fly at the peak. The highest limit is not my limit if I'm flying IFR. It's for VFR. This is what is the purpose for you with this point. It doesn't mean anything else. It means that if I tell you the limit is, let's say, 1000 feet above ground level to flight level 110, let's just say, then they are saying don't fly at flight level 110 on an IFR because that flight level 110 is reserved for VFR. This is what they are meaning to say. They're not saying anything else, and they're not saying that we are going to provide ATC or not. So far, nobody has mentioned even once what's going to be happening to my VFR traffic with respect to air traffic control. We will get there. But here we have to be very careful. Okay, if it's a VFR flight level, what do they mean? They mean that, okay, remember this. For any CTA, the highest level that you have should be your VFR flight level. This is something that you need to remember. Then the second thing that comes into our mind is why VFR? There is a reason. What could be that reason? The reason is related to separation of traffic. The reason is with respect to pilots assuming some things which they should not assume, which could result into collisions. Another thing could be to keep it alternate. Another thing could be that, okay, so that the next airspace that starts after CTA, if there is anything such in that way, then there will not be a coincidence of two airspace having the two starting and ending points having the same reason, like the same IFR thing. But here, why VFR when they are only providing it to IFR should not be your main question here. Overall, as you go ahead, students, try to have that confidence and see at things, look at things from that perspective. Your basic logic will always push you towards confusions when you're learning regulations and the language in there. Simply just stating it, nothing is wrong. It's just a question. I'd say why? Because mainly for you to understand that the max level is not for you if you're doing IFR. Now, does VFR airplanes get ATC or not? If not, then how do they communicate? And if yes, then in which airspace? Does it come under CTA or not? That is something you're going to see shortly. Shortly. And that is started with classes only. When you talk about classes, that's when you get the answers. So we'll be making that table today itself. It's a very simple table to understand. But very good question. When I read it for the first time, I remember this because it's a unique point. I was like, okay, I'll remember this. It's like that. This is again one of the main reasons why we cannot just guess anything in exams in aviation, because it has its own contradiction and own paradox. If you remember, I say aviation is always half of the logic is right, half of the logic is opposite to what we understand someone who's not from aviation. So we have to be careful about this because some things are contradictory in nature by themselves, but they are not. There is a hidden meaning there that we need to sit and study, break our minds to analyze. It's like that. But very good questions. Students, think about it. I'm liking the questions very much. I could say these are very tough questions. Nobody would have a direct answer unless you look at it from the perspective of however we look at it. Think. Any more questions? Think. Good. Quickly write about CTR. First point, CTR is established in the vicinity of aerodrome to provide air traffic control to arriving and departing controlled traffic. I'm giving you this definition verbatim because it has a lot of keywords, and in our exams they'll play with one word here and there, and you'll be like, sir, sare to same lag raha. This line should match. All the keywords should match with this line. CTR, control zones, CTRS, like control zones, are established in the vicinity of aerodrome to provide ATC, that is air traffic control, to arriving and departing controlled traffic. Write down second point. Second point you will write down. Because CTR is a zone, it is defined as the base of it is defined as, because CTR is a zone, the base of it is defined as ground level or mean sea level. Because it's a zone, base is defined as above ground level, that is ground level or mean sea level, not above. Because it's a zone, all zones, now you know air traffic zone starts from the aerodrome itself, the ground level itself. Because it's a zone, something that you're learning for the first time. That, okay, whenever we talk about zones, these zones will start from ground level or sea level. CTR is a zone, so it will also start from ground level or sea level, mean sea level. Third point, similar to CTA, when upper limit is in flight level, it will be a VFR flight level. A very tricky question, which by logic you would mark incorrectly only. But when you read it, then you understand, okay, these are just terms. I need to remember these terms. Within CTR, ATC is provided, air traffic control is provided by dash and is mandatory. Here the answer is approach control. Or you can say approach controllers, not control, but controllers. Then it makes the whole difference. Approach controllers and not approach control, remember that. Because generally we think approach control is Mumbai approach, Mumbai ground, Mumbai tower, variety. So approach control becomes Mumbai approach. They're saying approach controllers. Remember approach controllers. Within CTR, ATC is provided by approach controllers and is mandatory. It is very mandatory. You cannot have an option otherwise. True or false? Can a CTR serve more than one aerodrome? What do you think, students? Yes or no? Wild guess, random guess. Students? Yes. CTR, any one CTR may serve multiple aerodromes. If you remember rules of the air, see, information is with you. You need to just connect the dots, fight the logic. You just started learning regulations when you're doing CPL. Don't use logic, use memory, use learning. Try to give answers going through what you have learned before making that guess. I cannot emphasize on it more than this. खुद से सोच के आंसर डायरेक्ट मत लिखो, जो पढ़ा है उसके बेसिस पे लिखो. Don't you know when we had spoken about failure to give arrival report in rules of the air, what to do? That if you cannot give an arrival report to your air traffic control or your aerodrome, then send it to the nearest aerodrome where it is available. Why do you think that is happening? Probably that is happening because your aerodrome doesn't have a CTR altogether, doesn't have air traffic control. If your aerodrome doesn't have it, then where will it get information from? Who will help them? Probably the nearest major aerodrome that at least has a CTR. So links are there, hints are there everywhere. We have to just know that our answering capacity should be based upon all that we have studied so far and not the logic that we have had since we have grown up. Because this is something different altogether. And that is the importance of emphasizing on fundamentals, student. Because those fundamentals will help you come up with answers. Your mind will be required to recollect the study that you have done of the fundamentals. You have to do the mental effort. Only then you'll get. Generally, what we do, we automatically wait for our mind to give us answers. Not everywhere is it possible. Numericals, it's not possible. Regs, it's not possible. Regs 20, 30, 20, 50% is easy. 50% is tricky, just like any other exam. So always when looking at a question, think. क्या क्या मुझे पता है? Tell your mind, connect all the dots in my mind. Okay. At least 2 students dare to answer no, but the answer is yes. A CTR can serve more than one aerodrome. Are you following, students? CTR should be at least 5 nautical miles from aerodrome reference point in direction from which approaches are made. CTR should be at least 5 nautical miles from ARP, aerodrome reference. Here, you don't write aerodrome reference point ARP, aerodrome reference position. CTR should be at least 5 nautical miles from aerodrome reference position in direction from which approaches are made. Students, I'm giving you this line for the sake of MCQs. But in reality, CTR will have a uniform radial, a radius, and a uniform division all around the aerodrome, not just in the direction of approach. It could be 5, it could be 10, 15, 20, 30 nautical miles. Minimum is 5, and in the direction from where approach is made. So if I'm landing from here, then from here, whatever aerodrome reference position is generally ARP only. From there, at least 5 nautical miles I need, because 4 nautical miles in itself is long finals for me. Minimum 5 in that should be your CTR. But that is not how less it is. It is, in fact, a lot. 20, 25 nautical miles, 15, 20, 25, 30 nautical miles up to. It goes for a CTR. Varies again and again. Second thing, and the last thing that we'll talk about CTR, if you're talking about CTR, write this point down verbatim. If CTR is established within lateral limits of CTA. Now here the words confusing are lateral and what you're going to see next. So remember the point. That's all that you have to do right now. If CTR is established within lateral limits of CTA, the CTR must extend upwards to the lower limit of the CTA. All they're trying to say is that wherever your CTR ends, your CTA will begin. If a CTR is laterally within a CTA, as in my CTR is this much, my CTA is this much. If they are coincident or they are what can I say, overlapping each other, the word lateral here means that if they are within each other and they have lateral specifications, then my CTR, wherever it ends, it should be the beginning point of my CTA. So it must extend upwards to the lower limit of a CTA. Go through points of CTR quickly. About 7 points we have written. Tell me if you have any questions. Prohibited, restricted, and danger areas. Okay. They are always contained in the FIRs. All right. And notification about them will be given to you via NOTAMs. Now, prohibited, restricted, and danger areas have their own individual designator, students. They also have their country identifier along with them. What does it mean? Okay. It means that if I have prohibited area, restricted area, and danger area, my country identifier would be as good as my FIR identifier. So my prohibited area would be like this. VAP and any number between 001 to 9999 like this. So if I write VAP 49er, it means country identifier, FIR identifier are together. Indian AFSRA, Mumbai FIR. P stands for prohibited area, number 49. So in Mumbai FIR, I have prohibited area number 49. If I have restricted area, the code will be VIR or VAR, VER, VOR, whatever the FIR is. Country identifier and FIR identifier are the key. Then the one R will be restricted and danger could be like this. This is country identifier. Indian FSRA in the Chennai FIR. Danger area number 09. Here I can have restricted area 64 like this. So this is how the nomenclature is there for your restricted, danger, and prohibited areas. And remember, when you talk about restricted, danger, and prohibited areas, information about them is issued to the pilot through NOTAMs, pre-flight that is. In flight, if you are able to get any information, good. Otherwise, through NOTAMs. Remember that keyword. And these are unique numbers of the danger and prohibited areas. This also becomes an essential part of your airspace. Okay. Now, there are a couple of more variations in your airspaces. One is UIR called Upper Information Region. Okay. Second is Open FIR, Open Flight Information Region. Okay. And then you have one more that is OCA, and that is nothing but Oceanic Control Areas. I'll give you a couple of points on all these pointers. Write down for oceanic control areas. I'll just explain. You can write keywords. Okay. Anyway, I'm going to give you a reading task. Over large areas of the world's oceans, okay, there is a problem with respect to navigation. And communication is also restricted to only HF, and HF is not clean. In order to solve this problem, the airspace above flight level 55 over the oceans is designated as oceanic control area. So wherever you have bigger oceans, Atlantic Ocean, Indian Ocean, Pacific Ocean, all the oceans, as soon as you are above flight level 550 over the ocean, all that airspace comes under oceanic control area. And this is done to help navigation and communication, make it effective when flying over oceans. So when I'm talking about oceanic control area, anywhere over oceans above flight level 55, the airspace is termed as oceanic control area, where there will be strict rules and special navigation procedures will be applied. So you'll be following as per that. What is open FIR? If somebody tells you what is open FIR, any airspace within an FIR that is not defined as a CTA or CTR or restricted, prohibited, or danger. So if all those classifications are not there within an FIR, still you have some airspace which is undefined, not defined as CTA, not defined as CTR, not defined as restricted also, then that area is called as open FIR. It's just pure FIR, nothing else. Open FIR. No CTA, no CTR, no restrictions. Are you following, students? Write down about open FIR. When within an FIR, space is not defined as CTA, CTR, danger area, prohibited area, or restricted area, then that space is known as open FIR. Right on the second point, open FIR has only two traffic services. Open FIR only has two traffic services. One is flight information service, and the second is alerting service. Only information and alerts. Clearances are not mentioned, but are clearances a part of FIS or not? We will see as we go ahead. So within an open FIR, the only ATC provided are air traffic. What are they? Flight information service and alerting service. Only ATC service available is flight information service and alerting service. Remember all keywords, all key points. But what is an open FIR? Any part of the FIR that is not defined as CTR or CTA or CTZ is an open FIR, including no definitions of our control, correction, restricted areas, prohibited areas, danger areas, open FIR. So easy, right? Otherwise, it was not that easy to even imagine. Okay, obvious. Let's talk about upper information region. Now, whenever a country decides that I need vertical airspace separations, vertical. If I'm doing vertical separations, then the upper portion of the airspace would be called as upper information region. Okay. What is the benefit of having an upper information region? You can modify the rules and you can follow special rules that you were following, or you can follow special rules over and above the rules that you would be following in a normal FIR. Why would you need it? You would need it in many applications. Simply speaking, if a plane is coming, let's say from Europe and somewhere going somewhere else, crossing Indian airspace, and if that will be subjected to a little different rules compared to the Indian aircrafts that are flying from one coast to another, but are national only. So the other plane that is coming from Europe and going to cross the transit India overall will be a part of upper information region because it will be subjected to some special rules and different rules compared to the ones that are on the lower altitudes. So the assumption that people make with respect to upper information region is that it's mostly the aircrafts will be in transit or en route, and the lower region aircrafts will be arriving or departing, that is maneuvering around the airspace. Okay. In certain countries, that segregation is that the FIR will be only up to flight level 180 or flight level 195, and anything above would be an upper FIR in that case. It is, I think you'll find it in AIP or something as to what's the restriction is there for India. It's something that you could try to keep a lookout for. If India has an upper FIR, if yes, then what's the limit? If no, then maybe the whole thing is just an FIR and nothing else. Write down one important point about UIR. The lower, remember, the lower boundary of upper information region will always be a VFR flight level. The lower boundary of upper information region will always be a VFR flight level. Earlier, we were talking about the upper part of CTA, the upper part of CTR. The lower part of UIR is also a VFR flight level. Remember these points. Any questions? There are more keywords that we have studied. Although we have studied them in short, you have to remember these key points about all these types of airspaces that we are learning. Two more things that you need to know before we go on a break. What are those two things? Just like upper information region, we have upper control areas. Okay. What do you mean by upper control areas? In your textbook, when you will come across, you will be coming across a term that whenever you are above flight level 195, rules that are applicable may be the rules that are related to lower airspace. Not much description is given otherwise. So you just be aware of upper control area and be aware of this term that may be anything above 195 or maybe in sync with upper FIR. I can have an upper control area where rules of the lower control area are also valid if I am having an upper control area. So although UIR and FIR will have different rules, if I have something called an upper control area, that is a control area that is part of an upper information region, then in that CTA, rules that are applicable to the lower airspace of a CTA will still be applicable. So if you have an upper CTA, that CTA will tend to have the same rules like that CTA is having at the lower altitudes. unless the segregation was done, higher, lower, lowest. Now, one important question that you will always get, whose responsibility it is to provide ATC to controlled flights in controlled airspace? The responsibility of the people involved in giving air traffic services. Those people are not people, but they are units within which we have people, and the unit is called as Air Traffic Control Unit. So the statement goes like this. The provision of air traffic control to flights in controlled airspace is the responsibility of air traffic control units within a designated airspace. Makes sense? Air traffic control units. Now write this down. ACC, Area Control Center, provides air traffic control ATC within control areas, that is CTA. Second note, approach control units and aerodrome control towers provide ATC within CTRs. So now you have your answers directly in specific words. Now you're like, oh, so approach control and CTR both are the same. Yes, this is how we have been learning in RT also. That tower will help you reach some point. From there, approach will help you reach till that en route phase or resume normal navigation phase. Just like a supplementary to tower. So approach control and tower are hand in hand. CTR. ACC, Mumbai control, CTA. Mumbai approach, Mumbai tower, CTR is what they are trying to say. Now you connect and use it along with your RT. And now this is the explanation, which is very much in sync. So there's a slight thing that you realize. Okay, so makes sense that tower and approach ka jo do circle tha, they are one and the same CTR only. So that's why the transit control, transit clearance and calls like that are similar with approach and control, approach and tower both. That's transit now. So if someone is doing transit, they might be in the upper part. Someone is approaching, they are in the lower part. So that way also people are given different provisions of air traffic control service depending upon their altitude and their flight rules and so many other things. Now, if you have to talk about airspace, let's sum it up before the break. Let's break at 1 o'clock and let's come back at 1:30 after the break. Okay. So what is an airspace? It's a space above ground level, above mean sea level, above a level at that begins from a level above a ground level, within which air traffic services will be provided to control flights. Now, every state will have an airspace divided into FIRs. Within these FIRs, we can have ACCs. Within these FIRs, we have CTA and CTRs. CTA can start from a point or level above ground level to an upper limit. That upper limit will always be a VFR flight level. CTR will start from ground level or mean sea level to an upper limit, which will be the lower limit of a CTA. This upper limit again will be a VFR flight level. Places of FIR which are not designated in not segregated as CTA, CTR, or danger prohibited restricted areas will be termed as open FIR. Certain places, vertical segregation is done. When it is done, upper part can be upper control area. Upper FIR, different rules. Upper control area, similar rules as lower levels. Control units will provide ATC to control flights. ACC will provide what? ACC will provide ATC within CTA, and approach control units and aerodrome control towers will provide ATC to CTRs. We understand a lot of important terms that go ahead with it, but in short, what we have learned is these points. Okay. I will be showing you about the class of airspace after the break. And that's it. After that, some more reading and practicing questions. That's it. Basic thing of airspaces should be done. But of course, it's tricky to remember everything. So you have to spend that time. Understand, if you want to make your regulations more effective now, because you have exams coming in next few days, attend the lecture, try to study within the lecture. After the lecture, if you don't have any other classes, if you have other classes, attend them. If you don't have other classes, mandatory classes for you, okay? If you don't have, then you will revise the same lecture once, and then you will go ahead with your own self-study or revision same day. Push yourself, study as much as you can. Abhi se hi. सोच लो exam आने वाली है. You do that and you will see, you will remember everything in the exams easily. If you don't do it and if you think you will do final revision 2 days, 1 day before the exam, might be very difficult. I hope you'll remember this, okay? So whatever reading task I'll give you, you'll have the textbooks. I'll just simply give you the page numbers, or I might give you the segregated PDF quickly. So we'll try to do it today. Try to do it tomorrow before the session that we have tomorrow. Tomorrow also 11 a.m. regs we are doing, of course, unless otherwise specified. Any which ways you have to sit there and study 11 o'clock. Any questions about what we have learned so far? Why a lower level or upper level are flight level? We understand it's for us to know at least that it's an VFR flight level. I'm not supposed to be on the borderline. For an IFR flight, that is not for me to fly. So they're saying the border is not for you to fly. It's too sensitive and too risky. So we have given it to VFR. They'll take care of it. Any which ways, no, VFR flight level have a variation of 500 feet more. So the separation is very well guaranteed in that case. Vertical, horizontal, lateral, 5 nautical mile, this, that, keywords, basic definitions, how it all starts. Parallel boundaries or boundaries in the shape of geographical boundaries, so and so. Chalo. After this, I'll show you the airspace classes. It's very easy with the way we will be making the table. You just make the table with me and understand it. Afterwards, once you'll read, it'll make complete sense. Even now, it'll make complete sense. But afterwards, in the reading task, I'll give you to read much. But I'll explain it nicely so that you understand. Otherwise, it will be very difficult for you to understand even if you read. So my main task is that you understand that table easily. That's what we're going to do. You understand the table and ask me questions. If you have understood the table, rest everything is easy. Otherwise, if you don't understand the table that we're going to make, here it will be very difficult for you to try to understand the restrictions. But it's easy any which ways. Sure. Let's take a break and come back at 1330, everyone. All right. So I'll see you after the break. 1330. Students, welcome back. Are we waiting for someone? I think we're waiting for Hemant and Nukul. Let's just give them a minute. Prerit, Karishma, Suchita, Nandini, are you back? Okay, good. Go through the points, see if you have any doubts. We'll just wait a couple minutes. Okay, Hemant is not here. Rest everyone is. Okay. So let's talk about classification or classes of airspace. Okay, Nukul, you're here, right?
Yes, sir.
Students, try not to be late nowadays. 5 minutes are also very important, but it's fine. Yes, so let's think about this. Classes of airspace. Earlier, every country had different rules, and it was a bit chaotic with respect to how to classify airspace and what to do. In the end, ICAO came up with certain rules and regulations that made the classification of airspaces, what can we say? Pretty simple, pretty convenient. So as per that ICAO requirement, airspaces are classified into seven divisions. When we are classifying it into multiple divisions, we have classification with respect to class A, class B, class C, class D, class E, class F, and class G. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Now you'll be thinking, sir, okay, that I know. What is the difference? What do we mean by these classes? So the classification is done with respect to certain parameters in mind. First, I want you to understand these 4 parameters thoroughly. Okay. I have written it down. Airspace is classified as per number 1, the rules applicable. Whether you're following IFR, VFR, special VFR. Okay. Second is what kind of ATC services provided. Is there any alerting service, flight information service, clearances, separation? What all different type of ATC services are provided? So the first is rules applicable. Second is ATC services provided. Third is what are the separation standards applicable? VSM, RBSM, right? What are the separation standards applicable? Point number 3, separation standards applicable. And fourth is utilization of airspace. These are the 4 parameters on basis of which airspaces are classified. Rules applicable, ATC service provided, separation standards, and utilization of airspace. Now, you might be thinking, okay, I'm getting a little bit of clarity now. Now, what are the classes? The first class of an airspace is controlled airspace, CAS. Controlled airspace has all classes alpha to echo, A, B, C, D, E. Out of 7, 5, which is controlled airspace. All 5 airspaces are controlled airspaces, A to E. What happens in a controlled airspace? In a controlled airspace, air traffic control is provided to controlled flights. Now, in these classes, A to Echo, first 5, controlled airspace. In these classes, from A to Echo, all right, IFR flights are considered to be controlled flights. So, main criteria of traffic service is given to IFR. IFR in itself will be considered as a controlled flight. Now, what is happening in this case? Out of the 5 airspaces that you have, Class A, Class B, Class C, Class D, and Class E, under a controlled airspace, the first 2, Class A and B, planes will be segregated, especially whether they are controlled flights or not, with respect to permission. If permission is given to the aircrafts to fly in this particular airspace, then they will be controlled. While in Class D and Class C, so all permitted flights are controlled. Okay. All permitted flights are controlled. While in Class Charlie and Delta, ATC will be provided to VFR traffic only when VFR traffic will be conflicting with IFR traffic. So class A, B, C, D generally will be reserved for IFR flights. In that class A and B, all permitted flights will be controlled flights. So in class A and B, you have IFR plus VFR if they both are permitted. If VFR is permitted in class A, then it will be a controlled flight. If VFR is permitted in class B, it is a controlled flight, if permitted. Okay. Class Charlie and class Delta, ATC will only be provided to VFR only when that VFR will be conflicting with IFR for avoidance of collisions, basically, or to keep separations. Okay. Whenever we talk about controlled airspace, what do we talk about? We talk about controlled airspace as controlled airspace is defined as CTAs, including airways, and CTRs. Okay. As per ICAO requirement, Class E airspace cannot be used as CTR. So I'll give you a brief again. A very easy way to remember. The first division of class or first classification of airspace is controlled airspace. This controlled airspace will have 5 classes of airspace, class A to class E. Amongst class A to class E, class A and B, all permitted flights to fly in class A and B, be it IFR, VFR, they all will be controlled flights. So class A and B is the most common class of airspace. Class C and D, ATC is provided to VFR only when that VFR aircraft will be conflicting with an IFR aircraft. It means class A and B, VFR, IFR, if they are permitted, all controlled flights. C and D, IFR is there. VFR will only be given control, air traffic control, when they are conflicting with IFR flights. Class Echo will not have CTR. Rest everything will be there. This is the meaning. Okay. ICAO states that Class E airspace cannot be used as CTR. But remember, controlled airspace is also defined as CTAs along with airways and CTRs. That is controlled airspace CAS. This is the airspace where you'll get the most of your navigation-based air traffic control, controlled airspace. All that you think you will be doing in terms of navigating with ATC, then that is controlled airspace. Now, what do you get in controlled airspace? Class A to Class E, A to E, A to B, all permitted are controlled. C, D, VFR will be controlled only if it's conflicting with IFR. And the last E, although it's a part of CA, Class E airspaces will not have CTR. These are the key points that you need to be clear, and this sums up your understanding of key points with respect to airspaces. Similarly, for other areas also. Now let's talk about advisory airspace. It's not a control airspace, it's an advisory airspace. What does it mean? It means certain advices are given to you with respect to navigation only when it is needed or only when it is requested. Now, what do you think advisory airspace includes? Class F airspaces are advisory airspaces. AA, advisory airspace. So when I say Class F airspace is defined as advisory airspace, it means advisory air traffic control, only advisory, only steps when asked in terms of challenge. It's a very good idea to go through definitions on these points again and again. What is FIS? What is advisory airspace? What is traffic advisory? It just tells you what to do, how to do. It doesn't give you clearances. Okay. Now there's a thin line between clearances. Clearances are clearance as per your flight plan, while advisory could be something that is not related to your flight plan, something much more in real time. So advisory airspace, Class F airspace is defined as an advisory airspace in which advisory air traffic control is provided to IFR traffic, which requests for the service. So you could ask the ATC for something and you will be given that in a Class F airspace. Okay. All IFR traffic. Now let's talk about all IFR traffic. I'll share the screen. You just listen to me, everyone. Listen to this if you feel like you could make an important note. Okay. All IFR traffic flying in the Class F advisory airspace is required to file a flight plan, but no ATC clearance is issued. What did I say, students? Class F airspace, if an aircraft is going to fly in a Class F airspace, okay, then a flight plan needs to be submitted, but clearances will not be given to you. Okay. No ATC clearance will be issued, but flight plan or filing of a flight plan is required in a Class F airspace for IFR flights. So no clearance, just an advisory. There the name should click and help you remember. Now, what does the service or the air traffic service in terms of advisory limited to? The air traffic service in terms of Class F airspace, it is limited to the provisions of just giving advices and information to all the aircrafts that are participating at that time in the airspace for their separation. Class F airspace students is generally considered to be a temporary situation where it has to be decided whether full ATC can be given or not be given. So Class F airspaces are important with respect to advices and information. required by all the aircrafts flying there. The aircrafts could be IFR. If the aircrafts have IFR, they will be submitting a flight plan, but no ATC clearances will be given to them. So that is Class F airspace. Class F airspace links with advisory, information, participating traffic. Anybody who wants information will get information, but no ATC clearances are given to you in Class F airspace. So all of a sudden, you know about six airspace classes. A and B, CAS, all permitted flights are control flights. C and D, IFR flights will get ATC, VFR will only get when they are conflicting with IFR. E, although it's a part of CAS because CTA and CTR are part of CAS, but CTRs will not exist in Class E airspace. CTRs, control zones. Class F airspace is an advisory airspace. For an IFR flight, filing of flight plan is important, but ATC clearance will not be available. How much is the vertical limit? Now that will be defined in real time as per your nav charts, as per whatever provision is given to you. For you, what is allowed where and what are the minimum restrictions is much more important than anything else right now. If you're thinking, sir, if you're thinking that your So if you're thinking that airspaces and classes are directly defined with respect to altitudes, then that is not how our segregation is directly, initially. So clear about CAS with respect to class A, B, C, D, E, and advisory airspace with respect to class F. Now there will be overlapping of things happening that I'll show you. Any doubts so far? Just trying to share the screen. I think after the break, something goes wrong with this. Are you registering it, everyone? Yes, no, maybe. Please talk to me. Also remember, chances are that the class F airspace will be considered to be temporary. And it is generally established during a trial period to determine whether full ATC can be given or it cannot be given. So those are the keywords. Now there is one more important point with respect to special VFR. Flying VFR when the visibility is below 5 kilometers, up to 1,500 meters, below 5,000 meters. Can you take a special VFR flight? If you can take a special VFR flight, what are the provisions in which you can take a special VFR flight? The rule is very simple. All classes of airspaces which support the establishment of CTR. So class E doesn't support. So class E will not give me special VFR. So I need to know that. Other than that, all classes which support CTR, they will allow flights as per SVFR, that is special VFR. Simple. So special VFR will be permitted in airspaces. Which airspaces? Wherever CTR exists. Which airspace do you have CTR? You do know that Echo. Class E airspace doesn't have CTR. Wherever you have CTR, wherever you have CTR, special VFR will be permitted. Simple. In the exams, in the questions, especially the practice questions that you'll solve after the task, reading task, they'll be trick questions. So please connect the dots, nicely be able to answer. No direct answers are expected in regulations. Remember, it's always twisted and turned. Answer is direct, but the question will not ask it directly. Or the answer will not be given to you directly. Just follow my voice. I'm restarting the whiteboard. It might take a couple of moments. Special VFR, all classes that allow CTR or all classes that support the establishment of CTR. Got it? Simple. Now let me talk about an interesting airspace classification. There is an airspace which will be given to aircrafts that are not communicating over a two-way VHF radio telephony. It might come as a surprise that there are airspaces available. There are airspaces available where voice communication is not mandatory. So which flight rules are allowed and which airspaces allow this? VFR flights can be allowed to have no contact with radio or no radio-based contact, not IFR flights. First thing, keep in your mind. Second thing that you'll need to keep in your mind is with respect to which are the classes that permit this. Okay. So let me put this straight. Class E, F, and G. Class E, F, and G airspace, they permit VFR traffic to fly without a two-way VHF-based radio telephony communication. Suchita, you had a disconnection. We are talking about firstly a classification for special VFR flights. All airspaces that have CTR will give permission for special VFR flights. Students, remember what are special VFR flights? Flying VFR, but when the visibility is less than VFR requirements, less than 5,000 meters, but still more than 1,500 meters. Another classification is non-radio classification. There are airspaces where you are allowed to fly without radio communication. What are those airspaces and which planes are allowed to do so? Non-radio is for classes E to Golf, EFG. In class EFG, you are allowed to fly a VHF aircraft or a VHF traffic is allowed to not have a VHF two-way radio telephony communication. But if ATC thinks that there are certain areas in class EFG where communication will be better, where communication can be utilized to increase safety, then there will be specific points and specific routes where communication facilities will be involved, and at least in those facilities, the VFR aircraft would be required to communicate. A simple thing to understand, a simple thing to mark correctly in the exams. Once again, let's aggregate all. First classification is controlled airspace. Controlled airspace A to A, B, C, D, E. 5, I need to remember. A and B, all permitted flights will be controlled flights. C and D, VFR will only be given clearance. VFR will only be given clearance or ATC support, not clearance, ATC support when they're conflicting with IFR. Class E, if CTR doesn't exist, in Class E, CTR will not be used. Advisory airspace Class F can be temporary. Special VFR, all classes of airspaces, as long as they have CTR. So Class E doesn't have CTR, so Class E will not be used for special VFR. Remember, in the exams, the questions might be confusing. Answers might be easy, but they'll not be given to you directly. You'll have to connect the dots. Whatever is a direct option could be a wrong answer. Cross-check it before answering. You'll get to see the same in the practice questions after the task. Now, when we talk about the things that go ahead with respect to classification of airspaces, we talk about an classification of airspace where non-radio based navigation is allowed. What is that airspace where radio is not allowed? Classes E, F, G can be permitted with respect to VFR aircrafts not requiring a VHF-based two-way radio communication system. But in that airspace, if ATC has kept important points of contact for alerting, then at least in those areas, the pilot of VFR flying using no RT compulsory will still have to communicate on time-to-time basis. Next, you have two more things in your classification of airspace. One is speed limit, on which you get a lot of questions. What is the speed limit? Speed limit is applicable to aircrafts flying below flight level 100 only. That is 10,000 feet. Okay. But speed limit, what is the value and which aircrafts are subjected to it? Firstly, the limit will be applied to a flight level 100 or below. Secondly, the speed limit will be applied to VFR traffic only. VFR traffic only in which airspace? And all traffic in which airspace? That becomes very tricky. So write down speed limit, and speed limit is of 250 knots indicated airspeed, the one that you see on the instrument. 250 knots indicated airspeed is the speed limit for VFR traffic in Class C airspace. We know Class C airspace, VFR is only given ATC when it's conflicting with IFR traffic. In the same Class C airspace, VFR aircrafts have a speed restriction of 250 knots IAS, indicated airspeed. They can give you TAS, they can give you CAS, okay? Below flight level 100, and D, E, F, G. So apart from Class A and B, speed limits are given to all classes, C to G. In Class C, the speed limit is given to only VFR flights, while from D, E, F to G, the limit is applicable to all types of traffic. A very important question. Will an IFR flight be permitted or be given any, speed limit in a Class C airspace? So there I will say that Class C airspace, only VFR flights are given speed restrictions. So no. But Class D, E, F, and G, all four classes, speed restriction will be applicable. What is that speed limit? 250 knots indicated airspeed. The limit is applicable to traffics flying below flight level 100 only. So airspaces are divided with respect to a lot of things now. Controlled airspaces as to control flights, pure flying, that is pure commercial flying. Advisory airspace F, where flight plan needs to be filed, but no ATC clearances will be given. Airspace for special VFR flights, wherever you have CTR, you have airspaces where SVFR, special VFR can be flown. Non-radio, we already know, E, F, G, E, F, G. Remember, otherwise you will forget. Very simply, you have to remember these things. Only VHF traffic will be allowed to not keep a two-way communication in class which airspace? E, F, G. But they might be required to communicate at least once or twice of sometimes. But remember, the last thing that we spoke about, speed limit based classification, class C, D, E, F, G, 250 knots IAS, VFR traffic only in class C, and then thereafter D, E, F, G. Restriction for speeds are given to all airplanes below flight level 100, and the restriction is to be not exceeding 250 knots indicated airspeed. So IFR flights, probably yes. Class D, E, F, G. Speed limit of 250 knots indicated airspeed is applied to VFR traffic in class C and all traffic in classes D, E, F, G. Remember, the limit is applicable to traffic flying below 1000, 10,000 or flight level 100, 10,000 feet. It's a very simple way. You understand, you classify, then you remember. Hemant, I've tried to rephrase everything for you. Okay. Just make sure that you cover up the missed part ASAP anytime so that you know you can only revise again. Students, please don't try to be late these days in sessions. Please. Every minute. Please, I can only say that. Like, 1 minute भी आप लोग late मत दो. मैं हो रहा हूँ, ठीक है, आप नहीं हो सकते हो. Please remember that. Otherwise, I cannot start for those minutes because I want to teach everyone. And I know everything that I start with is going to be important. Or else if I'll start, then you will not find it. Like, abhi Hemant thoda late ho gaya. Kabhi kabar chalta hai, but ensure you cover up by yourself, students. You have to cover that up. You do not skip it. Otherwise, that loophole will always be there in your understanding. Then what's the point? So you'll be like, sir, 15 minute की वजह से मेरा इतना नुकसान हो गया. Yeah, of course. So if that is happening, you make sure to cover it up quickly, students. But no other problem. If you can do so, then I don't mind flexibility here and there. So all airspaces with CTR will give me special VFR. Non-radio will be with respect to class E, F, and G. Okay. For VFR traffic only in class EFG airspace, VFR traffic can go without a two-way VHF radio telephony, but still ATC will require you to report every now and then, here and there, everywhere. That subject is always there for you. All right. Non-radio, CAS, advisory airspace, everything on the screen like you can see it right now. Simple segregation, rough segregation, controlled airspace, advisory airspace, special VFR, non-radio, E to G, you know. Here you know the segregation. Speed limits. Speed limit based classification, Charlie only VFR. Remember 250 knots indicated airspeed below flight level 100. All other D, E, F, G, all aircrafts are applicable to the speed limit, provided they are below flight level 100. Below flight level 100. 1000 feet. The last is flight information service. Did anybody go through the definition of flight information service? If not, I'll still suggest you should. Flight information service, as you can see, is only given to C and G. By the way, you will be getting a table, but this is much more easier than the table. If you remember, what are the points to remember and what not, like what exists, what not exists. Flight information service. Students, you can see the screen, right, everyone? Flight information service is available to all aircraft that either request the ATC to give them the service, or ATC already knows that they have to give them the service. Okay. Now, this flight information service generally is not related to clearances directly, but with information. What kind of information? Of course, can be essential to navigation also. So, flight information service in class C to G is available to all aircraft that require, or all aircraft that are expected by the ATC to reach there. What is the information that you get in this? The information or the service provides you alerts for collisions, but leaves the decision to maneuver the aircraft on the pilot. So ATC will give you information. You have a conflicting traffic coming. You have potential threat here and there. Be alert. Not very serious, but something that is essential. But what to do will be given to the pilot to decide. That is flight information service. Here the advisory is not related, just information, pure information. So FIS provides collision alerts, but leaves it to the pilot to take necessary as per the rules of the air, avoiding action. So you should know the rules of the air, because in the exams, they can ask you, what will you do? Will you go with the pilot? Will you do what you think you should do? If yes, then how? You should do what you think you should do. How? As per the rules of the air. In which airspaces? In C to G airspaces, where we term those airspaces as flight information service based ATC is provided C to G. Remember, iCATS has devised 7 classification of airspaces: A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So what are the FIS? Class C to class G. Collision avoidance will be given, but action to avoid collision will be the responsibility of the pilot. An important definition, write down. Important information necessary relating to avoidance of collision is known as traffic information. Somebody tells you, what do you mean by traffic? You give this answer. Information necessary to avoid collisions is known as traffic information, or information necessary relating to avoidance of collision is known as air traffic information. Now, if somebody tells you, is FIS available in class A and B airspace? What would you say? You would say yes. In classes A and B airspace, FIS is available, but is of less priority to the provisions of ATC. Much more priority is given to clearances, collision avoidance, separations, maneuvering, vectoring, and so on. Information service is secondary in class A and B. So main thing in class, main thing where you'll get FIS would be Charlie to Golf. Less information compared to them in A and B, but can be availed. One important point that will come through your text would be this point. Essential traffic. What do you mean by essential traffic? Write down this definition. With respect to FIS, where provision of traffic information is considered to be of the same priority as ATC. The difference here is where the provision of traffic information. Now, what is traffic information? Information considered necessary related to the collision avoidance. Now, if in this airspace, if this information with respect to collision avoidance, the traffic information, if it is considered to be of the same priority as air traffic control, okay, same priority, because we said in class A and B, FIS has lower priority, but sometimes if the information regarding to this FIS is as important as ATC, then the traffic concerned is termed as essential traffic. Once again, what is essential traffic? If in an airspace where FIS or traffic information is as much high in priority as ATC, in class A and B is what you could say. Or anywhere else also, if the information given is as important as air traffic control based information, then that traffic is known as essential traffic in that airspace. And the information related to such traffic is called as essential traffic information. All that saying is, although you are not required to give ATC based information or guidance to these aircrafts, but you are giving collision information or traffic information, and that information is as important as ATC based information that they were ideally doing it, then they're just giving a term to that traffic and they're calling it essential traffic. And that information becomes essential traffic information. For you, the keywords are very important. In real life, this would mean that that particular aircraft should be given more information as well as air traffic control clearance. It means that aircraft will be given information also as well as clearance also in some cases, if they are between the controlled airspaces, that is A and B in that case. Students, think about it if you are doubtful anywhere. Okay, there is not much in class airspaces. Thus, the distinguish is very important for us to be done. Now, before we go ahead with the description, I want to tell you one more thing. Something that is there, something that will be important. RNP, required navigation performance. Okay. Now, this required navigation performance requires all aircrafts to have an efficiency of 95% all the time. It means that the aircraft will remain on its planned track 95% of all its time. And all the aircrafts available in the airspace, 95% of all the aircrafts will be complying with this RNP to maintain 95% of their navigation intact. Every aircraft should meet this. If the aircrafts are not suitable to meet this, then they'll not be allowed to fly in these airspaces. This is the common required navigation performance that we all need to keep. Now, students of navigation, you must have come across an airway having 10 nautical mile width, 5 nautical miles right and 5 nautical miles left on each side of the airway center line. What is this 5 nautical mile coming from? That 5 nautical mile comes from this code RNP 5. Now remember, if you get something like this, it means every aircraft should be within 5 nautical miles of its desired track. Simple. If you get RNP 4, it means I need to be within 4 nautical miles. But the problem is, technology has not advanced enough to give me this. So I get this as the least, and this is because of VOR DME based instruments. But this is not an adopted classification. This is something that we use. iCAO has given us certain requirements to maintain. iCAO gives us these requirements: RNP1, RNP4, RNP12. Write down RNP 12.6, and then you have RNP 20. Some airways abroad have this 20. Some airways will have 12.6, some will have 4, but some will have 1. What enables 1? What enables 4? Right now, we don't have anything enabling 4, but we have RNP 5 going on everywhere. Okay. Certain areas will have RNP 20. It will mean that they should be 20 nautical miles away from each other and their deviations. Now, what is the example again? Okay. I'll give you an example. Let's say this is an airway and I have an aircraft like this. So if I have RNP 5, required navigation performance 5. Now, this is established by ICAO, followed by the state of the country. By default, we'll follow this here, there, everywhere. So if I say RNP 5, then it will mean that on both sides, I need 5 nautical miles separation. Okay. And there will always be a buffer. Now, you will get numericals based on this in regulations. You might not feel they are numericals. They could say RNP 5. What would be the separation between two airways laterally separated for reciprocal tracks? If you think RNP 5, you will say 5 nautical miles, but that will not be correct. Why? So we first have 5 each. Then we need 5 buffer, a safety. And then we have another airway in this direction where I'll have another plane flying in this direction, which will also have 5 nautical miles to its right and 5 nautical miles to its left. So my total airway separation for RNP 5 lateral, if I have to consider, will be 15 nautical miles. Similarly, how much will be for RNP 20? For RNP 20, it will be 20 on one side of the aircraft, 20 on other side of aircraft, and in between buffer that is equal to the RNP value, that is 20. So it makes how much? 60. So the simple word is multiply the RNP by 3 to get that difference between two airway center lines when they are parallel or laterally separated. Or when two airplanes have to travel at the same time on parallelly on same altitude, maybe on separate airways, then the airways will be separated as per the RNP and the aircraft will be required to maintain that. So how would that be then? Again, that would be, if it's RNP 5, then I need 5 here, 5 there, 5 buffered. RNP 4, 4 here, 4 here, 4 buffered. Like that. Okay. For example, radar gives you RNP 1. Okay, radar is more effective, we can say. GPS gives you RNP 0.3. And inertial reference systems have been giving us RNP 12.6. These are the things mentioned in the text. Remember, RNP 5 does not exist. The specification doesn't exist, but we avail that with the help of VOR. The specification that exists for us to approve and accept is RNP 4, RNP 1, 12.6, RNP 20. But we use RNP 5 because of VORs. What is the application of this RNP? It is in track spacing. Spacing of two tracks away from each other. That's where your RNP will be very important for you. RNP specifications can be used for track spacing. And then, of course, what about air traffic routes? The CTAs, they make corridors, and those corridors are called as airways. Most of the time, airways will be utilized for en route navigation only. We don't need airways when they're landing or taking off the aircraft from the aerodrome. So So generally your airways would be for en route traffic only. And generally they will be dealing the aircrafts with which phase? With the cruise phase. That is airways. Generally, we think airways are the most important thing, but airways generally are good. But now these days, airways in itself are causing a lot of problems with respect to delays and congestions. The smaller the aircraft you make, the better is the usage of airways these days, because then the RNP and everything reduces. For an air traffic controller, and when it comes to airspaces, what do you think is most important? Firstly, the assignment of flight levels, assignment of headings, easterly, westerly. Based upon that, assignment of flight levels on top of each other. Those two are the most important things for air traffic control, and then helping them stay there and stay connected, or helping them with such situations where they want help, saying we need clearance to go there and here and we are not prepared, we don't know, you help us. So we help them in doing that. Now, with respect to your routes, ICAO-based description of your routes is such that your routes will be given to you as regional and non-regional. Non-regional means domestic. Regional will mean international. Okay. Now, students, one more thing I want to tell you, although we are still communicating and navigating mainly with VOR and DMEs, there is an advanced system called area navigation system, which is already almost implemented everywhere in a very good way. So it's not like that it is not there, but still VOR DME based navigation is high. But your routes everywhere, even your instrument arrival procedures and departure procedures, will be referred to as area nav procedures as we go ahead in future. And it is not difficult. Area nav is nothing but using all the related ground aids and then navigating with respect to them. Okay. So routes will be generally based upon the area nav system only. And based upon that, what routes do you have? You have routes that have area nav routes and you have routes that don't have area nav nodes. Simple. So for your routes, the type of routes that you will get will be regional, non-area nav routes, then regional area nav routes, then non-regional, non-area nav nodes, area nav routes, and then non-regional area nav routes. So don't be a stranger. There are many routes that will also include the standard instrument departures, standard instrument arrival procedures, and helicopter routes as well. So other ATS routes will have routes that help you land, take off with respect to SID and STAR, and certain routes specifically designed for helicopters. Now, SIDs and STARs are not exactly routes, but they form a pattern for you to follow, so they can be termed as other ATS routes. Route designators are something that are very unique. Now, route designators could vary with respect to their names. In the textbook, the Oxford Bay textbook that you will read, you can just give a read to the prefix, the first letter for the route, along with numbers. Remember, route designators in your airspaces will have numbers from 1 to 999. Okay. It is claimed that routes starting with prefix whiskey are domestic routes, but here you will get different prefix. You will get upper air route, supersonic transport route, helicopter low level route, advisory route, which will be in class F airspace, FIS route, class G airspace, Yankee and Zulu, Just keep a lookout on them. Just keep it remembered for the sake of your Oxford-based questions, but they are least likely to come in our DGC exams from the text. But everything else is very important. Letter plus numbers, of course. Letters plus numbers, of course. So now, students, if you think about it, what's there in airspaces? FIRs, ACC, CTA, CTR, prohibited, restricted, danger areas, open FIRs, upper information region, upper control areas. All of a sudden, everything is said. Then we talk about classification. What are the different classes? Classes are simple: A to Golf, 7 classes by ICAO. CAS has the first 5, very important. The first 2, A and B, are the ones that you think are what airspaces were. Be it IFR, VFR, if you are allowed, you will get ATC. So remember, C and D, only VFR will be given ATC only when it's conflicting with IFR. E will not have CTR. And from there on, you make your own mental chart to make sure that you remember, okay, I have advisory airspace class F. I have special VFR. Wherever CTR is there, special VFR will be there. Non-radio class E to G. Only VFR flights are allowed, but still every time to time we might be required to communicate. So we should have provisions. Speed limit, all airspaces C to G. C, only VFR traffic 250 knots, indicated airspeed below flight level 100. Other airspaces D, E, F, G. All aircrafts, as long as they are flying below flight level 100. FIS is given to all aircrafts from C to G. A and B can also have, but on less priority. In case the priority of A and B is as important as the air traffic control priority, then that traffic is known as essential traffic, and information given is essential traffic information. Remember one more thing, in advisory airspace, in FIS. In FIS airspace, information related to collision can be given, but what to do is the pilot's responsibility. Then we talk about required navigation performance. The number itself shows you that how much should be the separation or spacing of tracks, but RNP should be 95%. It means every aircraft undertaking a flight should stick to their navigation 95% or more at every time. And all the aircrafts, while taking part in the airspace, 95% of all the aircrafts will be maintaining this, is the understanding overall when it comes to required navigation performance. Important to be understood when it comes to airspaces. And then we talk about routes. Routes could be based on area nav or non-area nav, regional, non-regional. Regional is states interconnected under an ICAO region. Non-regional is confined within a state boundary. So non-regional becomes domestic, regional becomes international. Don't get fooled by the word, because by the word regional might seem specific to a region means domestic, but that is not the case. So all keywords are explained clearly. Do you have any questions? Think about it. Quickly tell me if you have any questions. Students, any questions? No one? Hemant, Nandini, Sushita, Prerit, Karishma, Nukul. Think about it. Tell me. What is open FIR? Oceanic control areas, prohibited danger areas, country designators, FIR designators. No doubts? Sure. I'm sharing the text with you all. Go through it, and I'll share a picture on screen. That picture will quickly study to understand the classes as per the table. Okay. Think, see if you have questions. I'm giving you time to revise, go through your notes, ask me questions. Anything you missed when you joined in a little late, or maybe you had disconnection, let me know. Feel free to ask. So we have Hemant, Suchita, Nakul, Karishma, Prerit, then Suchita and Nandini, right? So once I discuss the table, we'll wrap up the session. After that, do a good read from the text, solve the questions as if it was a test, check the answers, then check the ones that are wrong, see if it makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, quickly discuss that with me. Keep it parked on the chat. That's all you have to do with this practice and move ahead with the next topics then. Around 30, 40 questions are there for you to practice and study both at the same time. Who didn't get it? I think I sent it to Fun 2, 3, 4, 5. Only Suchita, I think. Nandini, I think. Okay, wait. Fine, good. Preet. Only Nandini in the class, right? So, fine. Sure. We'll make it quick, the table. Let's try to finish it in 5-10 minutes, not make a big issue out of it. But take your time and always feel free to discuss the doubts whenever you can. And this is there in the notes also. It's color coded easily for you to see. Okay, I'm sharing the screen right now so that we see it. Okay, students, can you see it now? And you can also see the cursor right on it. So that is good. Yeah. The last column here is the use. The first is the class of airspace. Okay. Class A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Directly look at the use first. Class A has CTA, CTR, airways, and routes. All. Okay. Class B airspace has CTA, CTR, airways, and routes. Complete ATC given to you. That is the meaning. Class Charlie airspace gives you CTA, CTR, and airways. Okay. See a note. What is the note mentioning 5? An airway will adopt the classification of the surrounding airspace when it passes through CTA. So here they are actually showing you that the differences and nothing else. Class Delta, same. CTA, CTR, airways. So A to C are controlled airspaces only, right? CAS. So they will have the similar things with respect to use. Class E airspace, if we look at it, Class E here, look at the cursor, only CTA, airways, no CTR is given to you. Okay. Here, when we say routes, it means routes will also mean the added routes, SID, star, low-level helicopter routes. When we say airways, it means CTA-based airways only, the corridors where CTA connects. So when I say airways, it would mean the ones used for cruising and transit only. Routes, including that, along with that could be SID, star, area nav routes, etc., etc. So that is the difference between airway and route. Somebody tells you, then say airway is a corridor in between connecting CTAs, while a route could be that as well as the other routes. Class F airspace uses nothing but advisory route, advisory airspace. Class G comes under open FIR and gives flight information service. So these are the usage directly. These are the airspaces. Now we look applicability. Class A airspace is only IFR aircraft. Class B is IFR VFR. Class C is IFR VFR. Class D is IFR VFR. Class E is IFR VFR. Class F, IFR, IFR VFR. Class G, IFR VFR. So all airspaces are going to cater to VFR, of course, with certain restrictions, but only Class A will cater to IFR overall. Okay. Now, what kind of service am I getting? Class A, air traffic control service. Class B, air traffic control service. Class C, air traffic control service. Class C, IFR air traffic control service. Class C, VFR air traffic control service, as well as FIS. Very important. Now you see things are getting a little complicated, we could say, for us to remember, but it is easy. In Class D, what service is given to IFR? ATC. In Class D, what service is given to VFR? ATC. But look at note 4. Radar information or advice may be provided to augment FIS in CAS. Fine, no problem. If you have radar, you will be given radar-based service. In Class E, what service do I get? IFR will get ATC, while VFR will get only FIS service, not ATC service in Class E. Class F, IFR will get advisory ATC only, while IFR and VFR can only get flight information service because it's an advisory airspace. Class G, IFR, VFR both will get flight information service. Now let's talk about whether clearances are given to you or not. So remember, students, A to E only you get clearances. Rest nobody gives you clearances, just information or advices. It becomes much more simpler for you to note the table. Class A, clearance, yes. Class B, clearance, yes. Class C, clearance, yes. What clearance? ADC clearances. Class D, yes. Class E, IFR, yes. VFR, no. Now that is important for us to remember. Class F, no. Class G, no. No ATC clearance provided. Doesn't it make simple for us to understand now? The key is for you to remember, and repetition will help you remember it. Like revise, re-revise. Make your own notes, like make your own flow chart to memorize things. Understanding is very important. What kind of separation or is separation provided? Class A, everybody gets separation provided. Class B, everybody gets separation provided. Class C, okay. IFR will get IFR to IFR separation, and IFR will also get IFR to VFR separation. But VFR will only get separation when they are conflicting with IFR, something that we have already discussed. Class D, separation only IFR to IFR, no VFR separation. Class E, only IFR to IFR separation, no VFR separation. Class F, only IFR to IFR separation, no VFR separation. Here they have asked us to refer note. Note means service to participating IFR traffic only. Non-participating IFR to file flight plan and maintain two-way comms. Simple. Those who have submitted flight plans who are participating in the traffic. When I talk about flight information service, A and B is not of priority. So they have not mentioned FIS is not there. They have not said no also, just not of high priority. Class C airspace, VFR will get information service. Class D airspace, IFR to VFR, any conflict arises, they will get information. VFR to IFR, any conflict arises, they will get information. VFR to VFR, they will get information. Class Echo, of course, IFR, VFR, VFR, IFR, VFR, VFR. You can see how it is. F and G, everybody will get information because they are main advisory and information service based airspaces. So understand difference between clearances and information. With respect to speed limit, you get a lot of calls, questions. Class A and B, do you have any speed limit? No. Class C, only to VFR. 250 knots indicated high speed below flight level 110. Class C, only VFR. Speed limit, not IFR. Class D, speed limit applicable to everyone. Class E, F, G, speed limit applicable to everyone, provided they are flying below flight level 100. Radio watch. How many people are required to maintain a radio watch? Two-way VHF radio telephony. Class A, yes. Class B, yes. Class C, yes. Class D, yes. Class E, IFR, yes. VFR is exempted. But every now and then they might be required to communicate at least. Class F, IFR, yes. VFR, no. Class G, IFR, yes. VFR, no. Very important thing in class F and G, VFR is not required VFR flight is not required to maintain a radio watch. A to D, yes. VFR requires, but A and B, yes. C, yes. D, yes. So keep it handy as long as it takes for you to master it. Keep it there in your notes and study and revise it. Do we have CTR and special VFR provisions? Class A, yes. Class B, yes. Class C, yes. Class D, yes. Class E, no. Because Class E CTR is not permitted, so special VFR is also not permitted. Class F and G, no. Clearly mentioned CTRs as special VFR are not there in FMG also. A to D is where you get it. Simple. Use we have already studied. So that sums up the understanding of all classes of airspace in a single tabular form. All you need to do is just read and revise and discuss if you are confused. Try to memorize. Note 1 is signifying that the general speed limit is 250 knots indicated high seats enforced below flight level 100 or 10,000 feet. ये तो सेम हमने बोल रखा है ऑलरेडी, सेम नोट है प्रेरित, कुछ नया नहीं है वहां पर. आप अपना पीडीएफ चेक करो ना, उसमें आपको मिलेगा. See students, tell me if you have any questions. We are done with the topic. Any questions? Enough. This much is enough. If you come across anything with respect to airspace classes that you don't understand anywhere, bring it to my notice, share it with me. I'll be more than happy to explain that to you. Okay. Students are joining me for navigation. I'll see you at 4:30. Okay. Until then, please study, revise, and if there's anything on your mind, please share with me. Students studying this offline, you know the drill, students. I need your notes once you have finished this lecture, so that I know when you are doing this lecture, so I know what's your growth. Okay. And in case students are following any problems, like experiencing any problems or stress, please share with me. Let me know. If you need anything extra, just let me know. I'll try my best to get it to you. Simple, right? Airspaces. How do you feel, Nandini? Prerit, one by one, just say something. I haven't heard your voice today much. Anyone? Karishma, Hemant, you're joining live after a long time. Nakul, Suchita, how's it going on, students? Able to keep up? Able to make sense? Is it too fast, too slow? Okay. I'll take your leave then, students. Nakul and Suchita, Roger, Nandini, Karishma, Prerit, Hemant. Good. Good. Prerit, good. All right. I'll see you tomorrow morning, students, for regs. And I'll tell you what we are learning. Please get done with your task before that. Okay? कोई तकलीफ है तो मुझे बताना. If you're facing problems, let me know. But please don't miss the task. The task is to read the text I've shared, solve the questions, share the answers, as well as fix, like cross-check the answer. And yeah. Now we have one passing question. In class airspace A, can an aircraft fly with Yankee flight rules? Students might not be allowed because here only IFR is getting the clearance. Only IFR is allowed. So up to a point, you'll be allowed to fly IFR. And when you're changing to VFR, you'll also have to be a part of the another class of the VFR airspace. Generally, classes of airspaces overlap most of the times. So when they overlap, A and B could be over and above each other. So that point, you will be able to do it, IFR and VFR. Otherwise, you'll do class B airspace for a flight rule Yankee. Friends, when we discuss these points, you have some master keys, and if you think answers are not matching, bring it to my notice so that I can verify the doubts.
So for Yankee, it would be B class.
Yeah, class B makes much more sense with respect to this. Yeah, of course. Partially, class A will be given IFR, but then when it changes to VFR, then he'll have to change he or she, the pilot will have to change to another class of airspace. So that is also possible. It's not like they will not get it. They might get the IFR part up to in A, and then when they're starting VFR, they might change and get into a class B airspace and then make the change. Or class B airspace will be given IFR, VFR. Makes sense. Chalo. Good job, everyone. But just please be ensure and be alert and keep me in the loop. Okay, students? Chalo. Hemant, I'm not sure your update. Just remind me about your update as to what you're going to do with respect to exams and RT. Just highlight the messages again once, because yeah, we're not used to communicating much. So I want you to do that on and on and on and on. So do that again once, and I'll see all students later in the evening or tomorrow in the morning. Okay, students? Thank you so much. Very happy with the pace you're picking up, but let's see what happens. Chalo, students, take care. I'll see you. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.